The purpose of this video is to examine the moving average trading strategy for Bitcoin. So in column A and column B are the Bitcoin prices in the last year, starting from 2020 to 2021 March. So those are in US dollar, which I download from Yahoo Finance. So the idea is as follows. So then for a different short-term moving average, short-term can be 1 day, 2 day, 5 day, or 10 days. And then for the long-term is, let's say 15, 20, 100, and 200 trading days. So when there is a golden cross, that means when the short-term go over the long-term, then you make a purchase. When there's a death cross, that means the short-term go underneath the long-term, you sell. And I'm interested to evaluate different moving average trading strategy with different short-term or long-term. So then the first step is to calculate the moving average. So in K2 and K3, which I define as short-term and long-term. So X day, so let's say short-term I define as 5 days. And long-term, let's say I define as 10 days. So later on, at the end of this Excel file, you will notice that I generate a table which I can input different short-term and different long-term. But then right now, let's say the short-term I define by 5 days and the long-term I define by 10 days. So how can I calculate the moving average of 5 days? So that is given in column C. Usually if you take the average, let's say for 5 days, you simply select the last 5 days. So let's say I start off with C6. The reason is that if we are interested in 5 days, so then it have to start at day number 5. So therefore, the moving average, you simply select equals to average B2 all the way to B6. However, the way to do this is that you hard code the number 5. So that means if you are interested to change from a 5-day to a 2-day or 5-day to a 10-day moving average, then you have to change the size of the average command. So therefore, the way to get around that is to use the offset command. So let me quickly walk through what is the offset command. So I like to highlight the second half of this formula, average offset. So the average offset command. So then the offset takes 5 parameters. Offset command takes 5 parameters. The first 3 parameters tells you where is the left-hand side, where is one of the cell, okay? So B6, that means we start off with B6, and then 0, 0. That means on the on horizontally different column. So then I am moving 0 column, and then the vertically I'm moving 0 row. So therefore I have located at B6. Okay, B6, 0, 0 give me the number B6. Let me give you an example. If I have B6 minus 1, 0, B6 minus 1, 0. So that means I am at B6, and then rows I am minus 1 row. So therefore it get to B5. And then 0, that means column, I am still staying at column B. So therefore, B6 minus 1, 0 lends me to the cell B5. As another example, if I have B6, 1, 2, B6, 1, 2, so that means I am starting from B6. I go down 1 row, and then I go to the right-hand side for 2 columns. So therefore, that gets me to D7. Okay, so B6, 1, 2 gets me to D7. Okay, B6, comma 0, 0, which is just B6. And then the fourth and the fifth parameter talks about the dimension of the rectangle that I want to take the average. Usually, if you take the average, you select one cell and specify the dimension. So here the dimension is minus K2, comma 1. So that means the height of the rectangle is minus K2, which is 5, minus 5. And then the width is 1. So therefore, this from here, I goes down minus 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the width is 1. So therefore, the command B6, comma 0, comma 0, minus K2, comma 1, would simply allows me to select a rectangle that is 5 by 1, or you can say minus 5 by 1. So just to have a quick test, you can see that this is the number minus 56569.23. So let's say here equals to average. I select exactly the same 5 cell. Okay, so B2 to B6, close bracket. I get the same number, 6569.23. Let me give you another illustration. So let's say right now, I am only interested in 2 days. So I change this number to 2. Okay, so therefore here, basically if I get back to here, so equals to average, and then just for the last 2 days, so I select here. Okay, so I select here. And then this number would be the same as this number. Okay, so both give me 6356.44. So therefore, like the important thing that you, okay, so let me get back to the number 5. So the important thing that you learned is that here, the command average offset would allow you to dynamically select the size of the rectangle that you like to take average. So in this case, B6, comma 0, comma 0 would tell me that the anchor cell is B6. The anchor cell is B6. The last 2 parameters, minus K2, comma 1, would tell me that the rectangle that I like to take average is a minus 5, comma 1, which means you get from B6, you go back 5 with the length, with the width of 1. You will notice that I have a dollar sign here, $K, $2. So what it actually means? So dollar sign, it means that you take the absolute reference. Usually, if you move an Excel formula, so then the cell reference will change as well. So let me give you an example. So let's compare C6 and also C7. C6 and C7. So if I copy this formula, the cell B6 becomes B7. Well, but then like I like to make sure that I always reference to K2. I do not want the number K2 to change. If I do not have a dollar sign, so let me delete and delete. If I do not have a dollar sign, if I copy and then paste to the next cell, you will notice that actually it becomes K3, okay, K3, which I do not want. I want it to be K2. So therefore, I want to put a dollar sign. And then the dollar sign, there are 2 places to put $K, $2. The first dollar sign, $K, it means that when I'm copying this formula, the K keep on being K. Okay, sometimes if I drag it to the right hand side, K becomes L, becomes M, becomes N. But then I want to stick it to K. The second number is 2. And I like to make sure that when I am dragging a formula from like a from C6 to C7 to C8, it stays at K2. So the way to do it is to have K$2. Okay, so I have $K$2. That means if I drag the formula to the right hand side or downward, it is always K2. Next, you will notice that right now there is a dollar reference, well, a pound reference. So what it meant? Well, here, so that means I am trying to like take the formula B6, B7 minus K3, okay, minus K3. So then let me get back to the original one, put the dollar sign back, and then put it. So now we don't have the dollar sign, but then like what it actually means. So if I do not have the if statement, what would happen? So here I simply have the average offset. However, if I change this number to, let's say 8, then I would have an error. Why do I have an error? The reason is that the offset function is B6, 0, 0. So that lends me to this number B6, okay? But then minus K2, it is going back 8 row, going back 8 row. But then now we are at B6. We cannot go back to 8 row. So logically, it doesn't make sense. For a 5-day, well, for 8-day moving average, we have to start off with day number 8. While for 5-day moving average, we have to start off with day number 5. So how can we do this? So then the way to do this, change back to what we have. The way to do it is an if statement. So let me highlight the if statement. If statement has 3 parts. The first part is the condition. The condition that we like to test is that row B6, which give me the number 6, okay, because we are at row number 6. It have to be larger than K2, which is 5. So that means if we are at this cell, okay, C5, if we are at C5, then we are at row number 5, which is day 4. Okay, row number 5, but day 4. So row number 5 is bigger than K2, testing the condition. 5 is bigger than this condition, so that is not true. Okay, 5 is not bigger than 5. 5 is bigger than or equals to 5. So 5 is not bigger than 5, so therefore it goes to the false condition. So let me walk through this if statement again. The first part of the if statement, it means that it is testing the condition, testing whether we are at day 5. Okay, so row B6, that means we're at row 6, which is day 5. Okay, so day 1 is here, B2, day 2 is B3, day 3 is D4, day 4 is B5, and day 5 is B6. So we are at day 5, which means we're at row 6, which is true. So we are day 5. So therefore this condition is true. So then we get to the next part, which is our average condition. If that is not true, it will give me a dash. Okay, so when you have the dash, you need to have a double quote saying that that is a text, TEXT. So we have a dash. So therefore, you will notice that the if statement generate a dash for cell C2, C3, C4, and C5. Because those are day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. If I change this number to 8, then as you have expected, we are starting from day number 8, which is row 9. So that concludes step 1. So then you do the same thing for C and then column D. So that is the short-term moving average and the long-term moving average. Step number 2. So you like to decide under what condition you buy or you sell. When you buy, that means the short-term moving average actually go over. There is a cross. So what does it mean by a cross and going over? So let me give you an example. Let's say today is April the 4th, 2020. April the 4th. So then we are looking at yesterday, which is April the 3rd, and today, April the 4th. So if you're trying to compare these two values, okay? Yesterday, the short term is underneath the long term. Today, the short term goes above the long term. That is what we meant by a golden cross. Okay, yesterday it was short term smaller than long term, while today short term is larger than long term. Then you would buy. So you put a yes here. Let me give you another example. Okay, so then so here, let's say today is April the 7th. April the 7th. So then yesterday that is above and today that is above. So therefore there's no change. So therefore nothing happened. That is column E. While column F, that is a death cross. A death cross, that means it goes underneath. So what it meant by go underneath? Let's look at April 14th, 2020. Yesterday, it was April 13th. So then the short term is above the long term. Today, the short term is underneath the long term. So therefore, that is a death cross and that signal a selling condition. That's why we have a yes here. So let me try to walk through the logic. Let's go to cell E12. E12. Let's look at the second half, which I have highlighted. So the if statement have 3 parts. Okay, if this condition is satisfied, you give a yes. If this condition is not satisfied, you give a no. So this condition, that means C11 less than D11. So today it is April the 4th. So therefore today we are at row 12. Yesterday it was row 11. So C11 less than D11. That means yesterday the short term is smaller than the long term. We have an AND statement. C12 bigger than D12. That means today short term is bigger than the long term. Then you give out a yes, otherwise you give out a no. So this is the if statement. And what is in front and after? So that means remember that we have some dash here. So we are considering 5-day and 10-day moving average. So therefore that makes sense if we start off with day number 11. Day number 11. Because 5-day, 10-day, so then we start off with day 11. So the first part, that means row B12 bigger than the maximum of two numbers. And the two numbers are 5 days and 10 days. So that means now we are at day 11. So row 12 corresponds to day 11. So day 11, which is row 12, bigger than the maximum of 5 and 10, which is 10. Then we do this if statement, which I highlight here. If this condition is not true, that means we are still in the dash region. Then we just pop up with no. We just pop up with no. Let me illustrate one more time with the cell condition. So here, so I'd like to highlight this cell condition. So then basically the logic is the same. Let's first look at the middle part. Okay, the middle part. Today we are April the 14th, which corresponds to row 22. Okay, so yesterday it was row 21. So what it says is that the first part of the if statement, which is this and condition. So that means yesterday, short term bigger than long term. Okay, C21 bigger than D21. That means yesterday, short term bigger than long term. C22 less than D20, that means today, short term less than long term. So with this condition, then that indicates def cross. So therefore we give out an yes. Otherwise we give out a no. So that is the important if statement in between. And then we also have the if in front, which means that if we are in the dash region, okay, dash region, that means D2 all the way to D10, then we just pop out with no at the end. Otherwise, we use this if statement. So that concludes with step 2. Okay, step 2. And then on step 3, do I still own the stock? So the question is that, do I own the stock at any particular day? We need to have this in order to calculate the total profit function, which is at K6. At K6. But then let me explain what is the logic of G, column G. So first, G2, that means initially we do not own a Bitcoin. We don't own a Bitcoin. So then let's try to understand the logic here. Today, if I buy, then I own. If I sell, then I do not own. Otherwise, I am the same as yesterday. Let me repeat it again. Today, if I buy, that means E3 equals to yes. Then I own. That means yes. Otherwise, if today I sell, that means F3 equals to yes. If I sell today, then no, then I do not own a Bitcoin. Otherwise, I am same as yesterday, which is G2. Let me give you an example. So here, so at G12, at the cell that I highlight G12, so we buy a Bitcoin on April the 4th. So therefore, the first condition is satisfied. That's why I would have a yes. So here, that is a yes. So then let's consider G13. G13. So G13, I did not do anything. Okay, G13, there's no buy, no sell. So let's look at the condition. If E3 equals to yes, well, I did not buy today. Okay, today is April the 5th. I did not buy. So therefore, it's not this. So then it gets to the second part. Well, did I buy? Did I sell today? No, I did not sell. So therefore, it's not this condition. Then I have exactly the same position as yesterday, where yesterday I own a Bitcoin. Last example here, okay, April the 14th. April the 14th, I sell. Okay, remember I sell. So let's look at this statement. So if E22 equals to yes, well, like today, I did not buy. So therefore, this condition is not satisfied. So let's move on to the next condition. If F22 equals to yes, so that means, well, today did I sell? Yeah, I sell today. So therefore, it will populate a no in here. So therefore, that is a no in cell G22. That concludes step number 3. Next, I'd like to look at the change in cash position. The change in cash position. So the logic looks like this. If I buy, I have a negative cash flow. If I sell, I have a positive cash flow. If I did nothing today, I have zero change. So let me repeat it again. The first part. If E3 equals to yes, that means if I buy, then I would have minus B3. Okay, so that is according to today's Bitcoin price. If F3 equals to yes, that means if I sell, then I have a positive cash flow. Therefore, that is 0. So as you can see here, April the 4th, I made a purchase. So therefore, I have a negative cash flow. April the 14th, I made a sell. I sell the Bitcoin, so therefore I have a positive cash flow. For any other time, there's no golden cross, no death cross, so therefore there's no change in cash position. So that pretty much concludes step number 4. Step 5. So if I have to evaluate this trading strategy of a 5-day short-term and 10-day long-term, well, basically, all I have to do is to sum up my position, change in cash position in column H. Sum up column H. However, there is a precaution. Okay, so then the precaution is that, do I still own a Bitcoin at the end? So that is G363. So G363, that is my position at the end. If I own a Bitcoin, then I have to evaluate, okay, either sell it or I have to evaluate based on the price at that time, which is B363. So therefore, the plus if statement that check whether I still own a Bitcoin at the end. If I still own it at the end, then I have to consider the value of the Bitcoin at that time. And then the very last step, I like to change 5 and 10 to different numbers in order to evaluate different moving average trading strategy. So what we do is something called a two-way data table. Two-way data table, which I have that here. So let me generate a two-way data table here one more time. Notice that you cannot delete any single cell. So let's say if I delete it here, it says that I cannot change part of a data table. In order to delete it, I have to select the whole thing, okay? Select the whole thing and then hit delete. So then let me do the two-way data table one more time, okay? So then basically on the x-axis, the x-axis are the short term that I'm interested. Let's say I'm interested in 1 day, 2 day, 5 day, 10 day. On the y-axis, those are the long term. Those are the y day. So let's say I'd like to evaluate 15, 20, 100, and 200. So at the intersection, at a gap, you put down the output that you are interested, the output that you are interested. So the way to think about a two-way table is like this. I have two input. The two inputs are K2 and K3. K2 and K3 are the two inputs that I like to evaluate. While the output is K6. K6 is the output. I want to know if I change different values. So let's say if I change it to 5 days, 15 days, what is the value corresponds to? So that is the question I'm asking. So like I can do it one by one. So let's say I do 1 day 15, I have a number, 2 day 15, I have another number, 5 day 15, I have the third number. But then that takes a lot of time. So a shortcut is to do a two-way data table. So then on the top left-hand corner, you put down the cell that you want to be the output, that you want to report. While here, that is x-axis. You can think about that as the x-axis. And here, that is the y-axis. So then what you do is that you select the entire table. You go to J10, Control Shift right, Control Shift down. Okay. And then you go to data. What if analysis? Data table. So there are two places that you can input. One is called row input. The other is called column input. Row is horizontal, x-axis. So then row. So then for the number 1, 2, 5, 10, those are for K2. Okay. For 1, 2, 5, 10, those are to describe the x-axis, which is the x day, K2. So therefore you select K2 and you press enter. Column. So you press here, column. Column, that means vertical. So the number 15, 20, 100, 200. Those are used to describe K3. Y days, K3. So therefore you select K3 here. And then you press OK. So once you press OK, you would have a bunch of numbers. Let me give you an example. 5 day, 15 day, you get this number 40199. 5 day, 15 day, you get exactly the same value, 40199. Another example. 2 days, 100 days. Okay, 2, 100, you have the number 41, age 14. 2, 100, you have the number 41, age 14. So therefore, the output here basically it means that if you change K2 and K3 to different numbers, then how would K6 change? For the purpose of display, so what I have done is to highlight some of the cells that give the largest value. Okay, what I have done is that I highlight all this. I go to conditional formatting under home, conditional format. Top bottom rule. Then you can do whatever you like. Let's say here, the top 10 items, or maybe the top 3. So what I have done is the top 3 items, then I change with light red fill with dark red color. Then you just click and then boom, here. So as another example, I can also do highlight this and then the bottom, let's say the bottom 2. The bottom 2, I like to have green. Okay, bottom 2, I click green, and then I just click here. So therefore, it is a really easy visual representation. So at the end, it looks like that. If we have to evaluate the Bitcoin trading strategy in terms of the short term, 2-day, 5-day, 10-day, they pretty much like give similar result, but then 100-day as a long term, that is a good description about the Bitcoin moving average trading strategy. So once again, so then all the logic is included in this text box. So therefore, I strongly encourage you to read it one more time and to listen to my recording if there's anything that you get stuck. Goodbye.